In the heart of humanity, a spark of kindness, in the dazzling yet chaotic streets of Cleveland, an unusual figure walked unnoticed among the crowd. Barron Trump, son of the former President of the United States, was unlike what many might imagine. At just 18, he was tall, poised, and carried himself with a quiet dignity. Despite the privilege that his last name carried, Barron was a boy who believed in simplicity and kindness, a side of him few ever got to see. That day, dressed casually in a hoodie, jeans, and pristine white sneakers, Barron found himself on Broad Street and 17th Avenue. His security detail trailed discreetly behind, giving him the illusion of independence as he navigated the bustling city streets, engrossed in his phone. But as he moved through the crowd, something caught his attention. A man sitting on the cold pavement, his eyes tired and his spirit visibly worn. The man, Leonard, held a cardboard sign that read, "Anything helps. God bless." Barron stopped in his tracks. For a moment, he simply stood there observing. Leonard was in his early 40s, his face weathered from harsh winters and harder nights. His layered, frayed clothing barely kept the biting wind at bay. The city's crowd flowed around him as though he didn't exist. Barron hesitated. He wasn't one to seek the spotlight, and helping a homeless man in public could easily draw unwanted attention. But something about Leonard struck a chord deep within him. It wasn't pity, it was recognition. He saw a human being who needed a hand, not just charity. Taking a step forward, Barron heard Leonard's raspy voice call out, "Hey, young man, could you spare $1?" Barron froze mid-step, tilting his head slightly as he processed the request. Slowly, he turned to meet Leonard's eyes. The chaos of the city seemed to fade, leaving only the two of them in a shared silence. "What do you need it for?" Barron asked, his voice calm and even. Leonard blinked, startled by the sincerity of the question. Most people either ignored him or tossed a coin without a word. This boy was different. "A cup of coffee," Leonard stammered. "Maybe a sandwich, if I'm lucky." Barron slipped his phone into his pocket and crouched down, meeting Leonard at eye level. His towering frame seemed less intimidating as he knelt, his expression softening. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Leonard," the man replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm Barron," the boy said simply, offering no hint of the weight his name carried. Leonard's eyes narrowed slightly, recognition flickering in his gaze, but he said nothing. The boy's kindness was what mattered in this moment, not his lineage. "How long have you been out here?" Barron asked, his tone free of judgment. Leonard hesitated. It wasn't a story he shared often. It was one of loss, pain, and disappointment. But Barron's genuine curiosity disarmed him. "Almost a year," he admitted. "Lost my job when the plant shut down. Then my health took a hit. Couldn't keep up with rent." He swallowed hard, his voice cracking. "It's been a long road downhill since." Barron nodded thoughtfully, his brow furrowing in concern. Without a word, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a crisp $100 bill. "This," he said, extending the note toward Leonard, "should cover more than coffee." Leonard's hands trembled as he took the bill, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Are you serious?" he whispered. "Why would you do this?" Barron shrugged lightly, his faint smile genuine. "Because I can," he said simply. But before Leonard could thank him, Barron leaned closer, his tone soft but firm. "Promise me something," he said. "What's that?" Leonard asked, clutching the bill like a lifeline. "That you'll help yourself tomorrow. Deal?" Leonard felt tears sting his eyes. It wasn't just the money, it was the belief, the hope, the challenge. "Deal," he managed to say, his voice steady with newfound determination. Barron smiled and reached into his pocket again, this time pulling out a small notepad and pen. He scribbled something quickly on the paper and handed it to Leonard. "Go to this address tomorrow," Barron said. "They'll help you. Tell them Barron sent you." Leonard unfolded the paper and read the address. It was a well-known resource center in the city, offering shelter, counseling, and job placement services. He had heard of it, but had always hesitated to go, feeling overwhelmed by shame and doubt. "I'll go," Leonard promised, his voice stronger this time. Thank you, Barron. I I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Barron replied, standing up and adjusting his hoodie. Just remember, sometimes the hardest step is the first one, but once you take it, the rest will follow. As Barron walked away, his white sneakers blending back into the crowd, Leonard sat frozen, clutching the $100 bill and the note. Around him, whispers grew louder, and a few phones captured the interaction. But for Leonard, the world had narrowed down to a singular thought: hope. That night, Leonard didn't spend the money frivolously. He bought himself a warm meal and used the remainder to secure a bed at a nearby hostel, a luxury he hadn't had in months. The next morning, with the sun casting a soft glow over the city, he made his way to the resource center. At the center, Leonard was greeted warmly by a counselor who listened to his story without judgment. Within hours, he was connected to a social worker, given a clean set of clothes, and assigned to a temporary housing program. By the end of the week, Leonard had not only a roof over his head, but also a plan to rebuild his life. Barron's small act of kindness had been the catalyst for Leonard's transformation. But as Leonard's life began to take a turn for the better, the world outside buzzed with a different kind of energy. The moment between Barron and Leonard, captured on someone's smartphone, had gone viral. Social media exploded with discussions, hashtags like #kindness in action trending worldwide. Some praised Barron for his humility and compassion, while others debated the privilege that made his gesture possible. But Barron remained silent. He refused interviews, declined media appearances, and avoided public acknowledgement of his actions. For him, it wasn't about recognition. It was about doing what felt right. Behind the scenes, Barron ensured that Leonard's progress didn't stop with a single moment. Through his family's connections and resources, he discreetly funded additional support for Leonard's recovery, from medical care to job training. Barron believed that true change required sustained effort, not fleeting gestures. For Leonard, life began to shift in ways he hadn't imagined. He secured a job at a local grocery store, started attending therapy sessions to cope with his struggles, and began reconnecting with distant family members. Every step forward felt like reclaiming a piece of himself that had been lost to the streets. One day, as Leonard walked home from work, he paused outside a shoe store. In the display window was a pair of white sneakers, identical to the ones Barron had worn the day they met. Leonard smiled, the memory of that moment flooding back. He decided to buy a pair, not as a luxury, but as a reminder. The white sneakers symbolized hope, resilience, and the kindness of a stranger who had seen him when the world looked away. As time passed, Leonard began volunteering at the very resource center that had helped him. He became a mentor to others experiencing homelessness, sharing his story and offering guidance. He often spoke of Barron, though not by his full name, referring to him only as the boy with the white sneakers. Meanwhile, Barron continued his quiet acts of kindness, avoiding the limelight and focusing on meaningful change. He supported initiatives for homelessness, education, and mental health, inspired by the impact of his encounter with Leonard. For Leonard, Barron's words remained etched in his heart. Small actions can lead to something bigger. And for Barron, the moment with Leonard was a testament to the power of compassion, a reminder that even in a world divided by wealth, status, and opportunity, humanity could bridge the gap. Because sometimes the greatest change starts with a simple act of kindness.